Going to call to order the Transforming Teaching and Learning Committee. It is 4:59. Thank you everyone for being here. We're really excited about our agenda topics. So my second item is public comments for agenda topics.
Madam, there are no requests for public comments.
Thank you, Ms. Buckner. All right, so moving on to item 3, a year in review of the principal residency. Dr. Cook.
Madam President, board members, our audience, and our administration, very excited to be able to share this with you. They're going to take a deep breath. They're excited. Look at the 3 residents. So this evening, we are here to celebrate our 3 residents and to hear more about their story. And so just as a review, our residency, this is our first cohort of our residency. It's an 18-month program. So we named them last January. And I do want to make sure that I introduce 2 key people that have been along this whole journey with us. From our Holdsworth team, we have Pat Bassarelli, who has been amazing. We don't have time for him to tell you his story as a principal. I will just tell you that it's very exciting and very interesting. He was a principal resident, actually, and so has been instrumental in all of the design of our work. And then sitting right next to him is our executive coach that was assigned to our 3 residents, Paula. So our model calls for a small cohort that will be with us for 18 months. And in addition to that, we are going to name our next cohort next year, not this coming year. Simply because as we looked at residencies and we thought about that, we looked at the research, that was really what everything pointed to. So along the way, our residents have been placed at campuses and have supported the district in different capacities. We wanted to make sure they had a campus experience, but they also had projects that would impact our district. So you know that in our district, we're big on being research-based, and so we're big on that. We're also very big on our leadership definition. So at the core of what we did look at our leadership definition. Along the way, our residents were able to identify areas that they were really strong in and areas they wanted to refine within our leadership definition. And that's really what Paula was using as our coaching tool. The other half of that screen, though, we always have to make sure that we're being research-based. And so part of our development throughout, we wanted to make sure that we had measurable outcomes that we were going to focus on. And so we looked to the effective schools model, which is on the right-hand side. So it's interesting that a lot of what we have in our leadership definition, there was a perfect overlay of these 2 models coming together. So it created a perfect model for us to be able to, yes, give feedback. The most important part of the residency is that at the end of the day, when you think about the power of principal residencies, is that we will always have a pipeline into the role of principal. That is a difficult job, one of the toughest jobs I will ever have, but one of the most rewarding as well. And so when we think about pipelines, these 3 ladies are the first cohort of that pipeline. So the other things along the way, we looked at 360 reports. If you're not familiar with 360 reports, that basically our residents would have different people at their campus, at their assigned campuses, along with their supervisors, to give them feedback around the leadership definition.
Are you going to hand this out?
We are. They're in your packet. You just have to find them. Each of you got a different one. No. But anyway, so those 360 reports, we gleaned a lot of information, and perhaps the most of the development came from those 360 reports. And then Pat helped them, along with Paula, to do their individualized development plans. Very, very specific with what we were going to look at for refinement. And it was driven, yes, by data, but also driven by our residents. So there's a lot of value to that. So you're not here to listen to me. You're here to listen to our residents. As you can see in the audience, there's a huge group of people. This is probably the biggest audience we've had for a So way to go, no pressure. But anyway, I'm going to introduce, we've already practiced who's going to go first. And so Victoria was the lucky winner. So I'm going to hand her the clicker, and she's going to come up, introduce herself, and tell you about her story. to be a lot of fun when it presents.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Corton, administration, and audience. My name is Victoria Manning, and I am the principal resident at Travis Elementary STEM Academy. I'd like to begin this presentation with my favorite quote by William Blake. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. And this metaphor perfectly describes why I needed to become a principal resident. Prior to the principal residency, the idea of the role of principal was really illusory to me, because I couldn't fathom being in such a role that carried immense responsibility and varied skill sets. But what I knew undoubtedly was that I wanted to grow into a leader that could cultivate a campus like the one Victoria Wahadla had at Austin Elementary, which was a school that carried her through significant life events like loss, confusion, disappointment, but most of all, joy. My residency can best be described as a Bildungsroman, which is a literary term used to illustrate the growth that a character goes through. So much like myself, a character can go through loss, journey, conflict, growth, and then overall maturity. This process began by looking inward. So like Dr. Corton said, we utilized the Holdsworth 360 Leadership Review, which was based on the HCISD Experience Leadership Competencies and Behaviors. I used this data to craft goals that would help erase any doubt that still lingered in my mind. One area that I wanted to refine is results-driven. This opportunity came in the form of supporting kinder through second grade in the area of literacy. And literacy and reading instruction is a really, huge immense passion of mine. And working through this project really helped me to define what kind of campus I want. And one aspect of it would be a literacy culture that is really strong, positive, and dynamic. So I began by doing a deep dive into Travis's data to identify some areas of need. I also aligned the goals to state readiness, to state accountability by keeping third grade readiness at the forefront. So my objective was to assist teachers as they identified areas of need, help them monitor growth goals for them. The growth and the evidence is sought after through iStation, especially looking at tier and lifestyle growth. So the actions I took to meet this goal required consistent data analysis, meeting with teachers, visiting classrooms, modeling a writing strategy, providing feedback, conducting data chats, and then coordinating a lifestyle incentive for the students. While working with the teachers, it really became apparent that responding to text was an important skill needed for third grade. So why not get them ready in second grade? So together we worked on a writing strategy used in third through fifth, and the second grade students were able to get started on that. And we started by modeling the strategy in the classrooms, and then the teachers were incorporating that strategy throughout the instruction. So what I'm confident of now is that these second graders are going to start third grade with the knowledge and structure of the strategy and be able to attempt it. Also, second grade teachers will really be keeping third grade readiness at the forefront and utilizing this strategy earlier in the school year to help students be even more prepared. Throughout this process, I really saw teachers reflecting on their goals. They identified students who were in need, they created action plans for them, and targeted areas of concern. What I loved was being able to celebrate with them as their students moved into new learning tiers and had overall growth. Aside from supporting K-2 instruction, I really wanted to focus on strategic thinking. So I was supported through the STEM committee at Travis to help them with their STEM showcases and their STEM challenges. So we had 3 that were conducted throughout the year, and each one of them had a different theme. And I really was able to hone in on this skill through my planning, delegation, communication, not only communicating with my campus, but also with the community at large, to be able to bring these showcases from start to finish to fruition. I also experienced some growth in developing self and others. I also got a really great opportunity to lead the district's new teacher meetings. So every month the new teachers met in this room, and we talked about different topics throughout the year that supported them through their first year journey. Also, I got to mentor Travis's new assistant principal, and Hartford people was already a strength of mine, but I really expanded in this area because I approached it through a different lens, which was the lens of a principal. And being at Travis, I can't stress enough how proud and honored I am to have been welcomed there. It's an amazing culture. The kids are so humble, they're so loving, the teachers are dedicated and really focused on student growth and making sure that it's a really happy place where everybody has a good time and kids have varied learning experiences. And everyone there is going to have a special place in my heart forever. The things I learned from my mentor, Ms. Mindy Sanchez, are invaluable because she was a person that allowed me to be vulnerable, to take risks, and to keep trying each and every single day. She's a true champion for kids, and really what I learned from her the most is celebrating students every day and in every single way possible. I loved being an assistant principal. I had a great ride. I enjoyed accomplishing tasks, being a problem solver for my campus, and I really felt like I was at the apex as being an AP. And there's a big, big comfort in that. But what I can tell you now, looking back on this year, is that wholeheartedly I've been transformed. I know I needed to embark on this journey to realize that the illusion was not the role of the perception of principal, but rather the illusion was my own self-efficacy. So what I can tell you now is that I can see a campus where a little girl with that little dark bob can step out of her dad's red Chevy S10 pickup and into a world of support and love. I now see that I am that person who can help cultivate a campus where students can feel inspired, engaged, and empowered. I know I can do that as a principal, and that will be me. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Corton, administration, and audience. I'm Antonia Salas. I'm the principal resident at Dr. Cano Freshman Academy. I set out to be principal resident because after 20 years as an elementary assistant principal and wearing many other hats as mom, coach, wife, daughter, I was ready to be the heart and heart in a different way. That different way for me is leading a school as a principal. When the opportunity presented itself to have the chance to practice in a different realm, I took it. Why not go from elementary to secondary? I was a middle school teacher. I thought I could do this. I thought I coach my own kids and teams to think win or lose, we go to win. No matter what the scoreboard says. The team you see in front of you believed in taking a chance no matter what experience they had in basketball. It was all about mindset. They had, in believing winning or losing, we go to win. They had that heart and dedication that brought them the 40-0. I believe this to be true in life, and whenever we have that same mindset, we win or lose through learning and doing. Life's about taking chances and making mistakes along the way, no matter what the scoreboard says. Taking that chance brought me to Pat Riley and being part of the amazing Fab Five. I go to them anytime to go play because they are here with me today. And I do want to recognize them because they're all here for me. But that's how we were all year, always with each other. Pat Riley and the Fab Five. In May's Teaching and Learning, Dr. Corton talked about a teacher residency that allowed brand new teachers to learn from the best teachers in our district and practice on the job. That having a teacher residency would allow 70% of practicing, 20% of coaching, and 10% from learning. I was able to do that this year at Dr. Cano Academy in the principal residency. There were plenty of days of practicing and coaching and learning. Mr. Vino, my mentor, principal, allowed me to run the campus, make decisions, and learn from them. I would ask her, what do you think we should do in different scenarios? Each time she would say, Tony, you're the principal. What should you do? Think. What questions should you ask yourself, the staff, the parents, the students? Have them come up with them. Have them make the decisions. Have them come up with the answers. Through my whole Force 360, I focused on areas of strength, developing self and others, and being result-driven. And after sharing my competencies and my behaviors with Dr. Corton and my mentor principal, Mr. Vino, my district project, campus project came to light. PLC Plus at the district and campuses. I was fortunate to be a contact person with Jennifer Maldonado, and I thank her for being here with me. We made a great team. We are a great team. My impact project at Kano Academy was the special education department. So what's PLC Plus? PLC Plus is a way teachers and instructional leaders come together in a trusting space to dialogue around instructional practices that focus on fostering innovation, development of content, what we teach as teachers, and pedagogical knowledge, how we teach it to our students. Together we make data-informed decisions from our classrooms and improve the learning outcomes for our students. PLCs, when done well, support us, our thinking, our decision-making, our learning in our schools and in our classrooms. PLC Plus takes our individual expertise as teachers and as leaders and harnesses the power of collaboration to give us equity and high expectations for our students through a systematic way of thinking and process. Dr. Kano Academy, the studio school for PLC Plus, embraced the opportunity to strengthen the structures that were already in place. We focused on our common challenges. Our common challenges was rigorous instruction and special education and bilingual education. As teachers and administrators, together, instructional leaders, doing learning walks in our classrooms, in a very trusting environment where we would ask each other questions. What is rigorous instruction? In our PLCs, we had discussions about how to move our learning forward through data and assignment protocols. Through those discussions, we focused on John Hattie's visible learning. Part of my practice, Ms. Trevino opened the door for me to facilitate the administrative, leadership, and SPED PLCs. My biggest impact and culminating effort was in the special education department. And I asked myself, did I lead the special education department better as a result of my support? I truly believe so, from the feedback I received from these teachers here. We sought out what worked, and when needed improvement, we figured out when to meet. We talked about developing norms for our students. Special education teachers, they met with their students. They had discussions about goals and graduation and attendance and behaviors. Something you think that is easy to do, but not as always as we think. As a coach, I asked for feedback from the special education teachers. Close to 90% agreed or strongly agreed their work in PLC contributed to their student success. And 3/4 of them believe that they have positive change on how they work with each other and with their students because we met together in a PLC. I feel I have become a different leader because of my residency. And at the end of my residency, I moved from a task-driven person to a vision-setting person. I used my strength, building trusting relationships, and being an effective communicator to guide me this year. This year, being resourceful and being great with people has really come through for me. I believe these are the qualities important to be an effective leader at HCISD. As your principal, it is my role to understand and facilitate the heart for people, the commitment of excellence, so that our students experience the best learning opportunities that we have to offer. As I shared at the beginning, I left a comfortable role as an assistant principal to grow as a person. I would have never guessed that in my journey this year, I would assist Gutierrez Middle School when they were missing an assistant principal, learn at Kano, and fill in for a few days for an amazing principal at Keys Academy. I wanted an opportunity to grow and to develop as a principal, and that is what I gained this year, and for that I am grateful to the board, superintendent, and senior team. Thank you for believing in me and investing the time and dollars so that I could grow as a leader. I look forward to my opportunities at HCISD to inspire, engage, and empower. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Porton, administration, and audience. My name is Elizabeth Minto Bauer, and I am a third-generation educator. I've known since I was in the 2nd grade that I wanted to work with children. I used to play teacher with my dolls, cousins, siblings, whoever would listen to me at that point. I have served HCISD for the last 15 years as a teacher, a school counselor, and an assistant principal. And as I was embarking on this leadership journey, I realized that I was ready to do more and capable of giving so much more to the children that we serve. Because that is one characteristic about me, is that it's always been about the children that we get to serve. And a lot of times when I'm approaching situations, it's from the lens of a leader, but also the perspective of a mother to 3 children of my own. And so I decided to apply and take the risk and apply for this residency program. And it was a difficult decision to make and definitely an emotional roller coaster, but one I knew I needed in order to propel me in that next role in my career. And I felt that the residency was going to give me the safety net of some sort and really provide me with the tools and the skills that I needed to hone in and develop my leadership skills. So if you look at the picture on the left-hand side, that is a picture of my mother in Guadalajara, Jalisco as a teacher with about 55 first grade students. And so education has always been an extremely important part of our family and who we are as individuals. So it was in the summer of 2022, as I sat at Harlingen Collegiate High at our administrative kickoff with my originally assigned team from Dr. Rodriguez Elementary School. And I received a tap on my shoulder and was asked to go meet with the superintendent of schools and a couple of senior team members. And it was explained to me that at that moment in time, I could best overall assist the organization by starting off the year at Coakley Middle School's interim principal. And so I knew from that moment forward that my perspective in the residency was going to be very unique and very different. So I was very excited and also very nervous to be asked to lead at Coakley Middle School. I had a humble heart and was extremely grateful that other people believed in me more than sometimes I think I believed in myself, but also nervous to be leading a campus completely on my own. But I also understood that every role I had ever served in, every experience I had ever had led me exactly to where I needed to be at that exact moment in time it was meant to happen. So I went into Coakley really wanting to work on campus culture. And I went in with an open heart and an open mind and really worked on establishing relationships because those are extremely crucial. Sometimes it took hours on end sitting and meeting and talking to people and getting to know their stories and just giving them that undivided attention. I worked closely with our team leaders, our department chairs, and our assistant principals, and worked to create systems and structures so that I could provide them with feedback so that they could then go back and develop themselves and those around them. Teacher voice was also extremely important to me regarding campus culture. The more teachers are part of the solutions to the challenges that they're facing daily, the more committed and willing they're going to be to do the work that needs to be done for students. And so I really took time to create systems where we were receiving feedback from teachers, utilizing that feedback to implement change, to gain momentum forward. And then consistently modeling high expectations. And this is done through our actions, this is done through the creation of the belief statements, through our mission statement that we created, and bringing the teacher's why to the forefront of the work that they do daily. Throughout this whole process, we're consistently getting feedback. We're getting feedback through the 360 surveys from staff members, from our supervisors, our mentors, and our amazing coach. And things just kind of started to fall into place, right? And so I really began to work on developing a plan and goals for campus culture, but then also instructionally, where did we need to head, right? And so that was extremely important throughout the whole process, was receiving this feedback and then implementing the change. So some of the characteristics or the competencies that came up for me within our HCISD leadership that I needed to work on and develop were strategic thinking and development of self and others. I can tell you that today at Coakley Middle School, you'll see the following. You'll see teachers rising to the challenge as teacher leaders. You'll see campus leaders engaged in weekly and structured PLCs. You'll see teachers or hear teachers and staff expressing their needs to receive the support so that they can best assist students. And you're starting to see a shift in culture where there are increased high expectations. But I also see a lot more that still needs to be done. And so every role that I've ever served in has been in the hopes to help in a much larger capacity. And I feel like I've been able to do exactly that over the course of this year. And one of the biggest things that I've learned throughout the entire program is how tough I am on myself. and how sometimes those internal self-doubts will creep in, and you're questioning whether the decisions you're making are the best decisions you can for the students that you serve, because I try to treat all the students as though they were my own. But through it all, I have enjoyed every moment and the relationships that I've been able to establish. And I'm super excited to see what is starting to take place at Copley. And so, although my time at Copley was brief and short-lived in time, it was such an impactful part of my educational leadership journey. And if I could leave one thing for the staff at Copley, it would be the following quote by Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And if I could leave my mark on anything, it is that. It is that people feel valued, seen, inspired, and empowered to do what is the absolute best for students because they deserve it. And just like my hope is that I left that for them, I want them to know how much they gave back to me. And so I am forever grateful, honored, and humbled to have served them, to have worked alongside them through such a beautiful experience within the residency. Thank you.
So those are all tough acts to follow. Now I have to close it. But I'm going to have the residents come up here because I know that at the end of each of our topics, we always open it up for questions and discussions. So y'all can come right over here. But I will tell you that we have learned so much from our first year of having our residents. A lot of lessons learned and things along the way that they too have taught us about how to really build the true pipeline. They are exceptional leaders, and throughout this whole time, you know, we had a lot of time to sit and talk about the power of coaching. And through the residency, I think that that's solidified. We've always known that coaching is key to making sure that people are have what they need. But probably no other experience like the residency has taught us that this year. So thank you to them. And before I forget, we'll take a picture before we all break huddle. But I'm just going to open it up to the board because I know you all may have questions. Some of the things that I'd like to share before we jump into questions is that we are going to work with our residents. We want to leverage their strengths and make sure that in the organization they're going to help us to fill some type of position that would equate to their continued leadership. So super excited for them. I'll
Great.
open it up to our board.
Thank you. Any questions? Start. All right, give the floor.
Everybody.
Dr. Pettis. Okay, go ahead. Please.
Sure, so can you kind of give us some insights as to, first of all, awesome, I enjoyed all your presentations, and it's clear that you were the perfect fit for this sort of assignment, and I think it's going to help the district going forward in whatever role you all end up in. But just obviously you're trailblazers in this regard as well. But I guess my question has to do with where do we go from here with this sort of initiative? Give us some thoughts as to sort of where you see it evolving into, because you've been through it, and I hope you will continue to stay engaged and inform what we do with this going forward. But are there some sort of things that you could have wished you could have done different, or better, or more of, or less of, or anything like that? I mean, just because I think there's always an opportunity. I'm sure it sounds like it was amazing for all of y'all, and that's not even in question. It sounds like you all learned a lot, and it sounds like wherever y'all were, you actually helped the continuous learning and innovation and the culture, and you kind of helped the teamwork there and everything else, all to benefit the students. But I guess my question is, going forward, can you give us some insights? What can we do different and better to help support this type of professional development, and I guess on-the-job training, really, because that's kind of what it is, whether 70, 20, 10, however it is, but that's what it is. But we're really should be doing more of the oversight, coaching, and accountability as leaders, and those are difficult things to do, right? And can you kind of speak to where you think the opportunities are?
So I'll say that one of the most valuable pieces throughout the entire program was having this undevoted and time with our now interim superintendent of schools, senior team members, We had a lot of layers of support that I don't know necessarily might occur otherwise, right? So that system of support was extremely crucial. I'm sure there's always room for improvement. I cannot specify or pinpoint exact things of improvement because we don't know any different, right? We went through it and we were humbled by it and we learned so much. But I'm sure with any new program, there's always room for growth.
I think you're looking at the data and the leadership that we have, right? Who's going to be our inspiring instructional coaches, our inspiring assistant principals? Because I had no idea that in 1 year, I would go from dealing with 3-year-olds all the way to 18-year-olds. Because I was at elementary, ended up at a middle school, ended up at Cano, ended up at Keys. But what I can tell you, I found out for myself that I could be resilient and use the strength and the weaknesses that I have wherever I was at, right? Because at Cano, I would manage using the people around me, right? If I had some weaknesses, hey, the team, that maybe that was their strength, right? As you look at your leaders coming up, what experiences do they have? Where are we at when it comes to data with maybe our, our future principals, our principals retiring, our assistant principals, thinking about those kind of things, right? Where are we at in years of experience, right? Looking into teacher residency, right? A lot of our teachers, if we move forward, right, looking into this, we continue this with principal residency, adding on teacher residency because a lot of our teachers coming in may not have the how to teach, right? How to teach in the classrooms, right? Because a lot of them may be coming from the business world, they may be coming from the medical world, right? So giving them an opportunity as well to practice, right? And being coached by, teachers of the years, right? And also learning.
I think it would be great if people, prospective leaders, could shadow the residents because we all went into this blind and took such a huge risk. And so if people are interested in it, they can spend some time shadowing residents to get a fuller idea of, okay, this is something that I want to do. And
That's a good point. Would you have done it? Have you done that shadowing before?
yes, because I was in the multipliers and training,
Oh.
and so I shadowed Mr. Sanchez and another admin, and so I learned a lot at that time. So I would do it.
And then just quick question is, do you feel that this whole learning experience got you prepared? Assuming that you were going to jump right into a principalship, right, principal role, do you feel that this process got you thinking in the right manner to sort of to evolve into that role? Because you're leading leaders now. It's a different role, and some people learn to something that's like, gosh, I don't really want that role. It's not really for me because I'd rather be, I'd rather do this work or be whatever, whether instructional facilitator or do this or do that. I'm not, and you learn about that role. Do you feel that it did a good job of getting prepared for that role and being, that evolving into that role?
I do, and the experience I had again was very unique, right? In opening up the campus, I was notified I think the end of July and went up until about October on my own. And so it was this whole sense of, okay, I was making decisions and had autonomy to do so and really feeling that what a principalship would feel like, right? And I feel like it did. I feel like overall it does really give you the ins and outs of what a principalship is going to entail.
Other questions? Jane?
So I think kind of building off of that, so now that you are the first cohort, and we're talking about having another, what kind of role do you see as wanting to play with a new cohort? What kind of
I see some type of mentorship, a feeling of you're not alone. We really leaned on each other a lot because we could understand what we were each going through. Because it is an emotional roller coaster, leaving a place that you were happy at, like just all the adjustments that happen. And so I think some type of mentorship to really provide that support to the new group of residents.
Through the journey, what helped and assisted us, and I found comfort, is I had these two wonderful ladies, right? But we also had an executive, we had two coaches, right? And we knew about our scheduled meetings, but there was times that, we would text or we would call, like this is going on. So we I feel like we had the best of two worlds. We had each other, but we also had coaches. I felt like sometimes I had my own counselor. And, you know, and then at Kano Academy, I had never worked with so many assistant principals, because being in elementary, you're only one assistant principal. And so you watch and you learn. And so as Ms. Davino built this team, right, this amazing team, it was also given many opportunities that, she gave each of us opportunities, but in the administrative PLCs, the leadership PLCs. And so if you've ever been at a leadership PLC at Kano, it can be a little intimidating, you know, in front of all the department chairs and being prepared. But having those opportunities, there was times that I would be like home as a teacher, like planning for this leadership PLC or the admin PLC, and it felt good. It actually, there was times it felt really, I'm like, I can do this is good, I got this, right? And then to be able to share with them and then get feedback. So it felt good to be in a trusting environment, maybe the leadership PLC, their specialty or admin, it felt good to be in a trusting environment and getting feedback. Because not always is it easy to get feedback, but it was good.
I agree with Elizabeth about mentoring the new residents, because I had the opportunity to mentor the new AP, just coming off the roll, so everything felt familiar to me, and, you know, knowing the ins and outs of it, so I would love to be able to share that with someone else.
And I just want to say congratulations, and I think it's a true testament to you all that you, I mean, I saw tears and joy and just pride, and so I congratulations, and clearly you have a lot of folks out here who have loved being on this journey with you, so congratulations.
Yeah, I just as a before I ask for any other comments, I want to say thank you to our coaches from Holdsworth. Clearly, you were instrumental in their individual journeys, but as a district, for us to learn how to do this and our commitment to growing leadership and remaining focused on the heart for people, being able to do this with Holdsworth made all the difference. So thank you both so much for your influence.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, sir,
No,
Dr.
I remember when we heard about this over a year and a half ago, we were all excited
Super
about
excited.
this program, because we, you know, what we envisioned and what we were told is you be immersed in changes and being able to learn so much from such amazing people, right? So my question to all of you, if you can all each individually answer this, is like, if you had to wrap it up in one big takeaway, what was that one big takeaway from the year and a half that you were exposed to this process?
I'll take it. So for me, the practicing, I was given time to practice. And you know, people don't like to make mistakes. And Paula Wood from Engage to Learn can tell you that my biggest, hardest moment was having to say, I don't want to make mistakes. And so to be at a great campus with great structures and a team that allows you to make mistakes and learn from them, that was my biggest takeaway. Because, you know, as a kid, as a player, as a parent, as a teacher, you're always afraid to make mistakes. And finally you come to a place that says, it's okay if you make mistakes. We're all going to be in it together, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to flourish. So my biggest takeaway, that it's okay to make mistakes, because we're going to learn from them.
So I have two.
It's just one.
No.
Well, as I mentioned in the presentation, I think for myself, it's just those internal self-doubts that can creep in, and being able to push them aside and still do the hard work for kids, right? Because they deserve it. And secondly, the importance of a strong team and empowering them and trusting them to go make decisions that they need to make that are best for students. And that if it's the wrong decision, it is okay, because it's a safe environment, and I will guide you and support you and protect you along the way. And so just the importance of a strong team.
I think it was about space for transformation. Like Elizabeth said, a safety net. Tony said the place to make mistakes. It really was that, you know, safe spot to be able to grow, be vulnerable, and to say, I don't know. And it was so like just walking a little bit down the hall. What would you do if? And you know, I got to ask like a lot of those like rhetorical, you know, what if questions, and it was just a great time and opportunity to transform.
And it sounds like that, bottom line is they have the ability, they have a cohort to reflect with and coaching. It's really critical. Vulnerable, you all mentioned vulnerable, you all mentioned self-doubt, and that's pretty powerful. So let me ask you this now. If those were your positives, what was the biggest negative thing from the program? And I know that was something that Nolan asked. You didn't give a real clear answer. I'll come back to it because Nolan wants to do it. We're allowing you to say this. What was, in the scope of the first question, right? What was the biggest takeaway? Well, what's something that maybe needs to be improved or you just didn't like?
I will be fully transparent. One of the things that I have had a hard time with is the unknown. Okay, the unknown of when we were announced in January. I was an assistant principal at Dr. Cano Freshman Academy, and I was very happy there. And the unknown of January to May of when our placement and where we're going to be.
So unknown is like unknown structure.
Right.
Agenda.
What is it going to look like? What is this whole thing? Where am I going to be placed? Because we hadn't been notified of our placement just yet. It was also very interesting to me to see the process of hiring my replacement. Right? Like she was having interviews, like okay, who's gonna take your spot? And so it's the realization of we're all replaceable, right? And now as we're coming to the end, the unknown of what happens to us now. So it is cyclical. It's kind of that same healing all over again as the unknowns of our placement.
For me, I had spent so long with little people, like elementary, and they no matter what, they love you. Even if when they're having a bad day, like they're gonna come back and say, I love you. Well, going to secondary, nobody really ever says they love you. Just saying,
Thanks,
So yeah, freshmen don't really say, I love you. So,
In their own way.
in their own way, they kind of do. I mean, I'll be honest, I walk around and say, have an amazing day, have a great day, have a, And it wasn't until like later, are you having an amazing, oh yes, you remembered, I am having an amazing day. So the negative part for me, majority of the time, it was like, I wanted to help. And I wanted to like, well, how can I help Mr. Mayor? How can I help the team? And it's like when you don't know maybe the how to, like, how to run things or how the structure, going from bell to bell or being on, like you're always on. And I've always been part of a team and I've always contributed. So when you don't feel like you contribute or you're taking from the organization, like you're taking more than you're giving, for me that was hard. Like that was hard. I don't know, that was the hardest part for me,
Being new was hard because I came from a campus where I was at for 7 years and had great relationships with people, and I thought, oh, I have great people skills, and I'm gonna walk in and everyone's gonna love me. And not that they hated me, but I just didn't have that instant connection with people. So that took time, and then finding my place. Also, like Tony said, yeah, you feel like you're taking more than you're giving. So being able to find your role and what you can give and do at the beginning, and switching gears, because I was still at the beginning of go, 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 do, like an AP would, and being principal requires taking that step back. So the transition at the beginning was hard, but then, like everything, even if I were to have a campus as a principal, that transition would be hard too. So as hard as it was, I'm also grateful for it because I have that understanding of what it's like to be in that headspace.
I'll just say one more comment real quick. From the outside looking in, not knowing exactly what goes in there, and looking at page 6 in our book here, it's a double-edged sword because this whole system is based on supply and demand, right? And Ms. Bauer, you mentioned that. What's next? And so if you follow that trail, theoretically, what's supposed to happen, right? When we go through a residency program as a physician or a pharmacist, well, then you have a job. You have your pharmacist. You're now whatever it is, and there's a little star there. It says you may not get the job. So and it's all based on supply and demand, right? And so if the question is now, how many spots do we have available? And
We have
and-
3. No.
Because that's the outcome we want, right? That's the result that we want.
So when I talked earlier about the model and how we had to give ourselves a year to get ready for the next cohort, that's why. Because as we looked at all of the supply and demand, we can't saturate the system with so many residents because we don't have enough slots. We went with 3 per year because on the average, that's about how many principal vacancies we have. Placement for these ladies, a lot shifts in the summer, right? And so we didn't want to lock them into, this is where you're going to be assigned, because life happens, things happen, usually in the months of June and July. And so that's why we haven't placed them. I will say though, that as we look at the residency, they didn't tell you this, but here's one of the changes and the modifications we need to make. When we think about naming, it has to be later in the spring, because that allows them to quickly jump into coaching and to do all of these other systemic changes, because we announced them in January, and then they had like these 5 or 6 months of like, well, you're not gonna be here next year, right? So that part was very uncomfortable for them. And getting ready for that, and so structuring the summer differently, those first few months is what we'll do. Earlier placements, I think, are gonna be critical as well. So that's part of the feedback that they shared with me along the way. And I'll also say, in closing, this is what I'll say. 70-20-10 is the model that Holdsworth taught us about. Hands down, that is the way to go. Because what these ladies are leaving with, and it's been a process, but sitting with their mentor principal or sitting with Dr. Villarreal or Mrs. Romero and Pat and Paula, they were able to, in a safe place, say, these are my fears, and this is what I'm so worried about. And we would quickly bring in tools for them so they could eliminate that. And I told them this, my principalship was probably one of the hardest jobs I will ever have, because you learn more about yourself those first few years than you do about anything else. And this year, we talked a little bit about that this morning. I think that's the biggest value of the residency. You go through that emotional journey, and you know, like hands down, they're ready. We give them a school tomorrow, they're ready, they're gonna jump in. No hiccups along the way, and no reservations, because they know what they're really made of now. And so we had a chance to talk about that this morning. Exceptional leaders, as I mentioned earlier, but I can't tell you how proud I am of them. Just watching them, like, they did outstanding. So thank you to also giving back to them. I also would be remiss if I didn't thank our principals, because they handed over a lot to these residents. And as we would meet, I'm like, so what's the area? They've got to own something on the campus. So I know that, I don't know if Mindy Sanchez walked in, but I know that Pedro and Imelda are here. Please stand, because you all. There's a certain level of confidence to say, all right, I have this resident, and I'm going to give them like an active role in the organization. Lastly, Tony, I would say that each of you took away a lot from the campuses, but I will also say that you all gave back so much. So never underestimate the powers of your contribution, because everywhere you went this year, you left a little bit of glitter. So thank you. Thank you.
All right, our final agenda topic is topics for future meetings. Dr. Porton?
Yeah, so we're getting ready for another exciting school year, and so as we head into the summer, we will be bringing topics forward. We have done a lot of work in the space of professional learning communities, and also streamlining a lot of the systems that we have for curriculum and instruction, and so we want to bring that forward. As well, you heard me earlier speak a little bit about the work that we're doing to engage families. Hashtag Empower Families is essential for us to be successful, and so those are some of the topics that we'll be bringing forward to you.
Thank you. All right, the meeting is officially adjourned. Once again, congratulations. Thank you. Now, Victor,